Welcome to Joyful Sober. This is a series of conversations with creative, inspiring, and productive people who think the topic of quitting or reducing their alcohol intake is worth having a chat about. I'm Alison Lassick, and today I have not one but two guests on the show, Jason and Andy Quin of ETCH Sparkling. But first, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country where we meet today, the Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my deepest respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and also extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who might be listening to our chat. So welcome to you both. It's so nice to have you here. ETCH has quickly become one of my favourite non-alcoholic drinks. Your products taste like such a treat, but with none of the negative effects. So that's really nice. And I love all of the native Australian fruits and herbs that's being used. So I'm so excited to meet you both and hear about your journey and how ETCH got started.
Thanks, Alison. Well, it's an honour to be here. Glad to be chatting with you this afternoon.
Yeah, excellent. So tell me first of all about the business. How long have you guys been in operation and what inspired you to kick it off?
So we launched in November 2019, which was, before any crazy world pandemics. We really started because of a personal journey of ours. Our background was working in the wine industry. So Jason and I both met working at local wineries here on the Mornington Peninsula, and Jason went off to have a 20-year career in the wine industry.
So I guess the chat for the purpose of today, celebrating the joyfulness of sobriety. It's an interesting topic because our business and ETCH, yes, it's intertwined, but for a chat like today, it's more important, I feel, to really celebrate for the audience listening about the joy of sobriety. So I hope we don't come across too branded, but there is a bit of a link in between the two for a really specific purpose. But I guess, Andy mentioned our background both in the wine industry and I was 23 years in the wine game, starting in a small family wine business here on the Mornington Peninsula, and then had a wonderful career across Australia, New Zealand and France, and covered production, winemaking, distribution, brand building, the whole gamut of that, running a wine business. But for me, the journey led to the progression of exposure to wine, the thing that I love most in my life, to become a problem. And I guess we're talking about this today, and I'm really comfortable to do so because that journey, I'm so grateful for that, to be on the other side, because certainly have found joy and a second go at life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that must have felt really, I guess, when you're getting to that point of making the decision not to drink anymore, but your whole life has been built around that. I know it's hard for any of us. That must have felt like a huge hurdle to overcome, to think about, okay, well, if I make these changes, what does that look like and what's next?
Yeah, well, I mean, fear was a huge thing to get to work through at the time, and ego, status, my career, the business cards that with the letters under the name were really important to me. My job or my career funded our family, it set us up financially, so that whole stability piece was revolved around that. So to break that down and to have to walk away, it did get to a very dark place, and that was one of the big challenges, I guess, at the start, to take on that fear and work through it. But I guess, again, in the context of today's joyful discussion, that once you do and you have the courage to take it on, I would never, it's such a preferred way of being now. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Alison, I remember, so Jason ended up having a stint in a rehabilitation hospital. And when he came out, we were sort of having this discussion of, well, what are we going to do now with the rest of our lives? You know, that was all we'd ever known. That was basically all Jason had done since he'd left university. And, you know, I just said to him, well, why don't we create an alcohol-free drink for people who are choosing not to drink alcohol or spacing their drinking, that's sophisticated, pairs well with food, and, you know, provides that same sense of inclusion and ritual as an alcoholic drink would, just minus the alcohol. So I just watched at that very moment the sparks come back into Jason's eyes, and he was like, he's always been an Energizer bunny, and it just came back, and he just went off on his little way and got ETCH rolling.
Amazing.
And Alison, the ETCH stands for Every Time Choose Health. So it's a little acronym that we build on a daily basis to just check in on mental health, physical health, spiritual health, you know, just how are you going? So whilst some people might enjoy our drinks as, hey, they look good, they taste good, that's great. But for others who actually buy into the brand and really understand, well, what's behind it, there's real meaning behind one of those things of every time choosing health in whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful. And the story of your brand is so personal, which makes it really strong as well. Yeah. And that is all intertwined, isn't it? Like my question around, you know, how the business kicks off. It's so personal, isn't it? It's not like you can tell one first without the other.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's certainly become a bit of a trend, I guess, the whole alcohol-free adult drinking, which is awesome. So it's great that Australians, the defined Australian drinking culture, might be having a little bit of a shift from the big binges, and it's all for the betterment of society, I guess. But there has been certainly a shift in the dynamic and, I guess, a trend, and there's brands and there's businesses now coming on board, which is just a wonderful thing for us, for all consumers.
Yeah. And in the time that you've been in business, do you notice that that growth and momentum shifting?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've nearly been 2 years, and I think everyone in the industry will agree that has absolutely grown. Specifically, you know, for us, our point of difference is really that we're not replicating an alcohol style. So for us, we really want to challenge that idea that having a grown-up drink needs to look like or smell like or taste like alcohol to be an enjoyable beverage. And that's probably our main point of difference. So people can enjoy ETCH for a number of reasons, and there's no issue with younger people drinking ETCH as well. Like, we work at farmers markets a lot, and some of our best customers are the younger kids too. So, which is great, because they get the health benefits of having no sugar, no calories, and a tasty drink.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that attraction because, well, normally or before I tasted ETCH, you've got like these sort of flavored waters that often don't have a lot of flavor, or like a really sugary alternative. So to have something where the flavors are complex, there's a lot going on, like you've got quite a bit more flavor, but it still tastes almost like an essenced water in a way, but a step up. And so, yeah, you've got a unique spot there, and I can definitely see the attraction for all kinds of people.
Our other values, thank you. One of our other values is celebrating native Australian fruits and herbs. So as passionate as we are about alcohol-free adult drinks, at the time when I was going through my early recovery phase, a local Indigenous man by the name of Lionel Louch was teaching me about native plants. And he's been a wonderful coach, confidant, mentor in this space. And so at that early time when we were R&Ding the business and thinking about what we wanted to do, marrying the wonderful flavours and attributes of native Australian fruits and herbs into an alcohol-free drink was another reason why we didn't necessarily want to make an alcohol-free beer or an alcohol-free spirit. Or we wanted to try and say, well, if we're going to do something different, let's take one step removed and really be unencumbered so we can do whatever we want to celebrate Australian native fruits and herbs in an alcohol-free way.
Yeah, incredible. And your journey from when you had that idea of starting something that wasn't alcohol to when you came up with your products, was there like a lot of research in that space and new learnings that would have been quite inspiring as well?
Oh, 100%.
We learn, sorry, Jace, we learn so much every day. Like, you know, I guess every business would, but there's those journeys where you just go, sometimes you think, oh, I wish I didn't have to go through that. But it's all good lessons learned.
Yeah. The whole category, we've learned a lot. I think the whole category seems to be evolving. The quality of wonderful adult drinks, alcohol-free out there at the moment, are improving all the time. There's new brands coming out, replicating alcohol categories, not replicating alcohol, but they're all wonderful. There's new retailers and even bars and nightclubs coming out. So I certainly think that it's great for Australian diners, socialists.
Socialisation.
Yeah.
Have choice. So I guess back when I sort of went through that change, one of the drivers was limited choice. There was limited choice of good quality adult drinks, and water gets a little bit dull after a while because we're both foodies. We love dining out, but to go to a nice restaurant and have a tumbler of water and sit on that all night is not much fun. And I don't particularly enjoy more than one sugary drink, you know. So at that time, the options were a bit limited. Now it's great, and we see the restaurant industry really driving better wine lists. I was going to say wine list then, beverage lists. To have options. There's degustation menus that are now matched to alcohol-free.
I haven't done that yet. Amazing.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
They're all shut at the moment.
I know, and this is maybe the same, Alison, being in Melbourne, is that we launched 2 years ago and we've been in lockdown for pretty much 2 years. So when we talk about going out for dinner, it hasn't happened that many times over that period, but other parts of the country, thankfully, have embraced our drinks while we've been locked down. So South Australia, Northern Territory, we've managed to, in New South Wales now, get out and share. Jason's managed to get out in our little bug van, we call it. It's got bugs, Christmas beetles they are, on the van, and he's managed to get out in between those lockdown periods here in Melbourne. But yeah, it's certainly been a challenge for the hospitality industry. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see it all ramp up once we're out and about again.
Oh, will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so in terms of learnings, just to dig into that a little bit more, I guess I'm really also curious to hear from a personal perspective. I imagine you would have learned so much about yourselves, and is there anything that's come up since you stopped drinking that you didn't necessarily expect, or that are your biggest surprises along the way?
I'll have a go at this one. Have you got something?
Yeah, well, you go first.
I guess I probably want to share about, I mentioned fear at the start of this chat and the ambiguity of going through a change. That's real, and that's real for anyone who is going through it. On the other side, what I'm surprised at is the ability of the human physiology, not only from a biological perspective, your organs recovering, but also from a mental perspective, that once you change those neurological pathways, the ability for humans to change. Once a bit of work's done. So I guess there's the whole, the learnings about gaining some help, some professional help, reaching out to others. But for me, if we start with, say, physical recovery, blood pressure reduced, cholesterol reduced, weight fell off, my skin recovered, my eye quality recovered, all in a matter of 6 months, which was just incredible.
Yeah, wow.
Mental health, the fog cleared, the depression lifted. Again, I sought some professional help as well as lots of reading and support of family and friends. And then gradually, as it was monitored, was able to come off medications and all that sort of working with doctors to do so. So this whole new perspective of wellness and the joy of sobriety occurred after a period of time. And it was all from dropping one ingredient out of my diet.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
If you could tell someone the elixir of life, or, the fountain of youth, is to drop one ingredient out of your diet, would you do it? It's a pretty interesting concept to think about.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Oh, wow.
And I think we're in our culture, and we're not conditioned to think about it. The messages that we get are, drink moderately, and maybe it might be unsafe to drink when you're pregnant, or it's so normalized that it's almost like I think it also took me until I stopped drinking to start even investigating what better things were happening in my body, or even thinking about the benefits, I guess, going straight to the benefits versus never really thinking about the dangers, I suppose, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We hit on a few things there, like around moderation, and I guess I spoke about progression earlier, that what does moderate mean for me? And I guess this is when personally I was checking in on myself, and at a point in time I thought, hang on, I'm not in control here. Wine is more dominating my life than what I think it should. And that's when I realised, geez, I'm actually in a bit of strife here. And that started the process. So I guess for that, the start of the process was that check-in. What role does that substance have in my life?
Yeah, amazing. Like, pretty amazing to recognise that. It sounds like in a proactive kind of way as well. Yeah.
It was proactive, and I guess everyone's got their own journey. I was just lucky that it picked up, but I was really surprised that it took a lot of work after that realization. It wasn't just hey, I'm drinking too much, I'm going to stop now. It was a drinking too much, behaviours still changed and were not good, and it took. They talk about the rock bottoms. There was still a solid period of time of in the boxing ring. Until I'm grateful that pulled out the other side.
Yeah, amazing. That is really incredible.
And for me, I didn't really get any of those positive benefits of quitting alcohol because I was never a big drinker myself. I stopped drinking when I was watching Jason go through his journey. But yeah, so for me, what I gained an upgraded version of my husband, who, he's always been an amazing man, an amazing dad, but he's present, he's connected with us. Our life looks completely different to what it did before. I didn't think there was anything wrong with our life before. I wasn't aware of that his drinking was a problem. Right up until he tried to stop drinking, and then it became clear that he couldn't. But I can't tell you how wonderful our life is now. The fact that in this lockdown period particularly, I cannot imagine what it would have been like going through this at that time. And I'm just so grateful, our little family unit, we've got 2 kids as well. We all get along, we all like each other, and it's pretty awesome.
I guess to build on what learnings have we had through the transition, through this development of adult drinks category in Australia, and the normalisation of, or there's no stigma anymore. Have you ever socialised? Well, not with socialising at the moment, but by having a nice drink in your hand instead of a soft drink or water, no one asks a question. So
they do. They always say, "I want what she's having."
Yeah. It's more. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, I guess the one learning was that it's not as. It seems like a really big leap of faith at the time, and it is hard work to go through. But on the other side, life's just fantastic without it. You don't really notice it anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing when it becomes like a normal part of your life, and you've got all these upgrades without sort of keep thinking about it, I guess. Yeah.
And that period.
That's the work. Yeah.
And I don't underestimate that either, because to keep thinking about it is a horrific way to live ongoing if you haven't, progress through that
Through
change.
that, yeah, and it can take, I guess everyone's on our own journey, but it can take different times as well. So yeah, it's really nice to hear you guys are in that space of joy and like lots of gratitude for the new way of being.
Yeah, well, and we just want to share it with others, and not to be too evangelical or anything, but just say, hey, there's other options, and if you choose to have a drink, that's fine, but here's other options as well if you want to have a spacer or.
And just to know to check in with that intuition. I think, that's one, if we could take a message out of the journey that we had to go through.
Yeah.
Jason had those voices for a long time saying something's got to give here, but he just didn't want to hear them. And so I think if we could really have stopped the train line a little bit earlier, maybe it wouldn't have had to go that far. But so for anyone listening who is sort of having those voices now, it's a really good time to really check in with yourself and see what's important.
Yeah.
And there's ways to check in anonymously too, with different organisations, website groups, and all sorts of bits and pieces. That there's support out there if you want to have a look.
Yeah, that's such a good message, definitely. And I'm keen to hear as well a bit more about your family unit. Like, do you think your kids noticed any difference with your new energy and, how that dynamic has changed at all?
I had a moment the other day, actually. I was tucking them in. So our son's 11 and our daughter's 14. And I was walking down the hallway between the two bedrooms and it was dark and I stumbled in the dark. And I just sort of, as I was walking into my daughter's room, I just had this realisation that they're never going to have to see me stumbling because I'm drunk, or they're never going to have to deal with me doing embarrassing things in front of them. Or maybe they will, because I am still embarrassing and I still deal with them. That's probably something that will still happen. But, for me, that was just that moment of gratitude that we're being good role models to them. And that we have such a great time with them. And I think this precious time that we've got while they're young and while we've had so much time together in this lockdown period has been, really lovely. And I'm so grateful we've been able to do that without alcohol involved.
Yeah.
It's true presence, as Andy's mentioned earlier on. It's being really present. And even when I was enjoying the Sunday afternoon wine back in the day, I might still be a fun dad, might still go and be active, but it's not truly present, and there's a huge difference.
Yeah, I don't think that was something I really realized before when I was drinking, but there's something about, that showing up just raw with all your senses completely on and all your inhibitions there. And there's actually the way you sort of sense the world. It's not dulled in any way. And it feels heightened if, for me, at least, if I've been drinking for a long time, at least, getting to that point where you really understand what true presence means is quite incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. And then in terms of like your toolkit, I guess in the early phases, were there any sort of things that really helped you on a day-to-day basis when you might have been feeling like a drink to relax or unwind in the evening, or to reach for, that you would recommend to others?
Sure. So preparedness is key. Having, particularly because there's different phases, 0 to 30 days, 30 days, 90 days, 90 days, 6 months, and ongoing. And there's different trigger points. And really, it's about having a solid plan up front that when you're in early days, have your off ramps ready to go. So when a trigger comes up, like it's like 4 o'clock on a Friday, replacement. So have still participate in rituals, because rituals are important. But you can replace it pre-planning, and then what happens in that time is, one, you give yourself a pat on the back. Hey, I've got through that in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then half an hour's gone past and the craving is gone. Cravings, the strength of them changes, and it certainly does dissipate once you've been able to get some time up and you've got that preparedness. That was really key for me.
That's super important.
Yeah. What else was there? There was lots of reading, lots of education, lots of because because there's those three facets for me: is the physical health, the mental health, and the spiritual health. So if you're working through each of those things, once you build up some momentum, it starts to snowball. But you really have to have a little bit of a plan on each one, whether it's reading, again, I said professional help, having your knowing your triggers, knowing your off ramps. Between my doctor's facility that I was at, the medical facility and home, there's I'll just digressing a little bit here.
Yeah, please go for it.
Talking about triggers, there's 7, either a big box, a convenience store, 7 liquor outlets. So I guess awareness and being prepared in Australian life, you just need to have it up front. So in that 8 kilometres from home to that facility, there's 7 opportunities for me to go and procure.
Oh, wow, yep.
The advertising's there, the billboards are there, you drive past these big signs. So it's just acknowledging that, it's a part of society. Just you have to acknowledge that, be prepared and have plans. And then now, after periods of time, I could be driving past a Lincraft. I probably should mention brand. I've never walked into one of those shops. I've got no interest in buying cotton. But it's sort of like that, I just drive past now and it doesn't even register as...
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I get the association, just something with, some things that you don't even register that you're not interested in. Yeah.
It really works at Lincraft.
Yeah.
And I think that, you've got to put your sobriety first. So, that comes, like, for me, that came before even our family for Jason. So if he needed to go to get support or anything like that, it was no question that was what he had to do first, because without sobriety there was nothing else. So that was really important. And for me as a support person, there's actually not a lot of resources around for people who are supporting someone going through that. And because you can't, no matter what I did, I couldn't make him change his behaviours or stop drinking. So that's another area I think that, there could be some extra resources there. But definitely things like reading, podcasts, the sober community on Instagram, that's a huge support for a lot of people. So, there's resources out there.
Physical, exercise is one, obviously, getting some fresh air in that can stimulate your serotonin, picking up the phone to friends, that's a tough one. So definitely getting a buddy early on. That's you've got to practice that when you're feeling good, because when you're not feeling good, the easiest thing is to not pick up the phone. Communication is really key, particularly for blokes. We don't like Well, I won't speak on behalf of everyone, but for me as a male, communication can shut down quite easily.
And sorry, we've got so many things in our toolkit. We're like throwing them at you.
I love it.
Through this. Just one thing is, if you're out at a social event and people are starting to drink a little bit, you've got to all this is putting sobriety first, but you can just leave. You don't even go if you feel like it's a risk to your sobriety. Just don't put yourself in those positions because it gets easier. So we're both nearly 3 years sober. I don't really refer to myself as sober, but I haven't had a drink for 3 years, and I think it's only in the 3rd year that I've really felt comfortable in it. So it takes time, and the more distance you get, the easier it gets. So
yeah, that's really powerful. There's so many things in that, I guess, like taking that time that you need in the early phases to get comfortable, and it's a total shift of identity, isn't it? It's almost like you've got to get that strength within and sort of be confident in who you are now in that new way of showing up first before you can really properly share that with others. And so that, I guess that's why talking about it can be quite hard in the beginning in some instances as well, because you're still sort of formulating it all in your own mind and figuring it out for yourself as well.
Yeah. That was one thing. Jason really vocalized things from the moment that he shared with me that he was having concerns. He vocalized what was going on, and he made him accountable. And I really don't think you can underestimate that either. It's, he was speak to his mum and dad as well. We've got quite close family relationships, and I think having that, or having a friend that you can check in with, and that's really helpful too.
Yeah, incredible. And have you made extra friends along the way as well? I know that was
friends because they like ETCH. So
yeah.
Yeah, we have, again, the socialising thing's probably a challenge to
lockdown. Yeah.
But definitely ETCH has been a vehicle to make some really amazing connections with people, and for me specifically social media, because I do all the social media for us. I've made amazing friends on there through that sobriety space that are really valuable. So,
and I guess for me, it's about the connections that we spoke about earlier. I now participate in an athletics club. I windsurf a lot, so I'm meeting networks through there. So these are all things that if I was only at home in front of the fire with a nice glass of red, I wouldn't have made those connections. And those, being busy and having good people around and just being active and involved, that's joyous.
Yeah, that's amazing. And those new hobbies as well.
Yeah. Well, they were always there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In my it's interesting. So running and windsurfing were things I was pretty reasonable at as a young kid, and then as a middle-aged man, I was like, "Oh, I used to do that," or "Oh, yeah, I could." You talk about it from the couch.
Yep.
In sobriety, I'm back out there doing it.
Amazing.
And that's phenomenal. So fitter and stronger than I probably ever have been, and it's just being active.
And the kids and I just go, if it's a windy day, we go, "Oh no, we know where Dad's going today."
Out on the water.
And it's never a pleasure to sit on the beach when it's windsurfing, because it's always really wild and windy. So.
Yep, sand whipping up at you or those kinds of things. Yep. Oh, amazing. It's been so good to chat to you guys. I'm just curious as well if there's anything else that we haven't covered about your story or that you would want to share with anyone who's listening whilst we've got you.
Well, sober life ain't boring. The fear at the start, false expectations appearing real, that's what it is. But, it's not insurmountable. With help, you can work through it. The joy of sobriety on the other side is absolutely worth the effort, but it does take action, and it does take sobriety isn't for those that need it, it's those that want it. So there is work that's involved, but from that work, the reward is phenomenal.
Yeah, incredible. And anything else on the front of ETCH that we can expect to see? Anything new on your horizons?
Well, we can't give away all our secrets, but we may have a flavour or two up our sleeve coming soon.
Yeah. There's more native Australian fruits and herbs that will be converted into beverages, and we look forward to sharing that with everyone.
Oh, that's so great. I love seeing your new cans as well.
Thank you.
That's great.
It's been
definitely show it off. Looks really good.
A huge week this week. We canned the cans like only a couple of days ago, literally. Yeah. We had the biggest day we've ever had, yesterday or the day before? I can't remember what day it is. So we've had a really great reception over the cans, and I think a lot of people who were unable to sell or drink the bottles, the cans are preference for shipping for a lot of people as well, or for events and swimming pools and things like that. We've had a lot of inquiries about that too. So
yeah, wow, that's incredible. And are they at the same price point? So it's just the option of whether you like the glass or the can, or is it positioned differently? And is the size the same? So many questions.
All right, so I can put the sales hat on now. So about business. So they're slightly cheaper actually, the cans, just slightly cheaper with more volume. So the cans are $4 and the bottles are $4.50.
And $2.75 mils in the bottles and $3.30 in the cans. So
beautiful. I'll be looking forward to getting my hands on some.
Yeah, they're great for the summer esky, I think.
Yeah, music festivals once we're back out there as well. But picnics for now, so that's also good.
Well, easy enough and quick to chill down, and
yeah, exactly.
picnics is a very exciting thing, but again, being in Melbourne, we haven't had picnic weather since we've had that announcement, have we? So
not really.
hopefully soon.
Yeah, maybe some over the long weekend, although I haven't checked the forecast. But yeah.
Yeah, I think tomorrow's the day, which is not the long weekend.
But thank you both so much for your time and sharing your story so openly. It's really nice to have you both on the show and to have been able to connect.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you
Thanks
for having us.
Alison.